Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rock podcast. I didn't get to record this earlier for the podcast I just completed. I'm thankful that I had an opportunity just now to meet with Purni. I was connected to her through a mutual friend, Shirley. She just lost her mom less than 2 months ago. Just really thankful to connect with people in this way, as grief really just brings people together in a way that I haven't experienced in a long time, in having so many friends and relationships. Hope you find this helpful, and feel free to interact with me if you want to talk more. Thank you. Bye. I actually haven't done a podcast in a while. And so when I reached out to you and then you were open to it, I was like, oh, great. Someone wants to hang out. And just so thankful that we can connect. I know we've
Yeah,
had some messages exchanged and yeah, a lot to talk about. Great.
yeah. My mom passed away like a little over 2 months ago, and
Yeah.
Shirley and I have been talking, and and then we were just talking about things, and she just, and while I was talking to her, I was like already thinking of doing something for my mom, but then she sent me your blog.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, it's so interesting that you sent me that because I want to do this for my mom.
Yeah.
And then we went into this whole conversation, and like that's how I kind of stumbled on your blog. And then yeah.
That's great. And then I saw you just released a second video and you have quite a following now, I'm seeing. I'm just so encouraged.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it because it's not like anybody's like saying anything, so it's kind of like maybe they like the plant content, who
Hmm.
knows, but just kind of taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's been less than 2 months since your mom's passed, right?
Yeah, my mom passed away on December 21st.
Okay.
She was in the hospital. I mean, my mom's been sick my whole life,
Hmm.
and something was always, but for the most part, she was healthy. But then 2021, my parents moved here from Virginia because we're originally from Virginia, and she just needed some medicine change, and so 2022 March we took her to Providence, and that was like the worst decision ever, to
Wow.
be honest. That's where she got sepsis, which put her into instant like kidney failure. She had kidney issues, but she was okay. She didn't need dialysis, but the sepsis was so bad it went everywhere, and it put her into kidney failure, which also like made her lupus active again. So then like she had lupus induced strokes, and they missed both strokes. And the second stroke made her not be able to speak anymore. So, like, for the last 2 years of her life, she just struggled. And it was all, it was so hard to see her. She would have good times in the 2 years, but this past October, she went in for her routine. Like, she would get this medicine. Now it's so crazy how my brain, like, wants to forget everything. So I, like, can't remember the medicine name, but she needed to get this shot that helps her like lupus stay down, and she was getting it in the last 30 minutes. She just started having pain and had to go to the ER, and she was fine for like 2 3 days. They were just gonna like do infection, like treat her for infections and then send her home. She ended up having a cardiac arrest, and then we were in the hospital for like 2 months, October until she passed, where she was intubated and was working her way up to like, you know, working her way
Mhm.
up to breathing on her own again. And like, it's so crazy. You know how they say, like, right before they pass, there's always like that one last hurrah. I swear to God, like, we figured out what was causing her to not be able to breathe. She had a secondary condition, and it was like her kidney was bouncing back to the point that they were like, hey, your mom can get off dialysis after 2 years of dialysis. And that's never the case.
Wow.
Once you're like past 3 months of dialysis, they think you're a forever dialysis
That's what I've
patient.
always heard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Diabetes
like
run in my family and I've had my uncle on dialysis and yeah, I'm surprised to hear that.
because we went to a really well, the rheumatologist that was looking out for my mom, he did so many tests and he figured out there was another like secondary condition. that affected her kidney and her heart, her lungs. And so we were like so close. And then just out of nowhere, the day she died, she had three cardiac arrests. And the third one is the one where, we said goodbye to her, but it was not expected, yeah, that's, she didn't feel pain in the last one. And I'm happy for that, but I wish she didn't have to have
Yeah.
two other ones, that day. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm sure losing your dad and your wife. It's they leave such a big hole, and you just
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it.
I'm so sorry. And I've been through my share of loss. I think in seeing your videos, hearing from Shirley, and then hearing this story from you firsthand now, I'm like, and then having to go through all that in the hospital. I can't imagine how hard it's been, especially if it's only been 2 months. That's not much time since.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm just still so amazed how all this is happening, because I still can't believe how I met Shirley. And I didn't meet her at the best place. I met her at the hospital, but I'm so grateful I met her,
Yeah,
because she's
she's
such a
great.
wonderful human being. It was right after my mom's second stroke back in 2022, and she was there for her own stuff.
Hmm.
And I was just walking to my car, like crying into the mask. And I saw her, and like, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I thought she was a nurse. I really thought she was a nurse. And and I think I spent the entire hour just talking to her about stuff, my mom, and all the stuff that's going on with her. And I was like crying and like snot on the mask and
Hmm.
everything. And she's like, "Do you want another mask?" And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to take your mask." She's like, "Don't worry, I took like 10.
Yeah.
They can afford it." It was so funny. I mean, just the way I met her. It was, and she's just become one of my like close friends here now. So,
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad we're connected through her. She's been great and has kept in touch with me since my wife's passing and now my dad.
how
Wow.
are you holding up?
Uh, Appreciate your asking. I was at a dinner last night as well. My friend Gretchen asked me how I was doing. I think just the last few weeks I've been busy. I have a race next week and been doing training to be a yoga instructor. I think just in being busy, in a way, it helps, and it's helped me, just not overthink and just feel sad about the loss of my dad recently, and then my wife. So I think, I just finished my teacher training yesterday night, and I was driving to my friend's house this morning to go biking, and I was quite sad just because I've learned after a big, thing I've done, whether it's a birthday party or a race, after it's all over, you still come back to an empty house. And so I could have my ups and downs even after it's all, it'll be 2 years since my wife's passing on April 2nd. So I think I've just been taking things one day at a time.
Right?
I try to be busy with good things, but I also know it's good to be alone and be still and just feel what I'm feeling. And I think, as you know, grief has a way of bringing people together, and you experience things that I think you just don't understand until you go through. So
It's so true. So true. I kind of always felt like I'm a little older
hmm,
and like ahead of my friends and people around me, because my mom was always sick. So like, right,
hmm,
I was that friend in
yeah,
like teenage years and 20s, when everybody's hanging out, going to parties, going clubbing. I was like, "Oh, I got to take care of my mom," which I would do it all over again. Like, one of my friend was
hmm,
like, "Most people don't spend time with their parents until they get the bad news." And then, whereas, she was like, "You got to spend so much time with her when she was healthy, that a lot of people don't think about it." So I would redo my 20s, and, but not without, that wasn't without also feeling like I didn't get to live my teenage years normally
hmm.
and 20s normally. But that's okay. But it's sometimes I get a little like, lately I've just kind of been like, why do I have to go through it first? Why? Because it's nice to talk to people. I don't want it to sound bad, but like people who have actually gone through it.
No
There's,
question. Yeah,
you
I
know,
understand. That's why I was like, oh, great. Someone who's gone through a loss that's wanting to talk. I could keep you on for 2 hours, but
yeah,
I know we have. or Saturdays to do, but I hear
Yeah.
you.
No, I mean that's all right. Yeah, I understand. Like my mom's birthday is on the 15th. So
Okay.
I don't I feel like we kind of just got thrusted into all the firsts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right after she died, it was Christmas and then New
Mm-hmm.
Year's. And then my dad's birthday was January 16th and
Okay.
her birthday is March 15th. It just feels like there's no like downtime. She just
Yeah.
kind of was like, I'm gonna go. And then you guys are just gonna get thrown right into all the first, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So that's
Wow.
been really hard, and like one of my old coworkers just told me when he was talking to me, he's like, it's hard after the funeral when things start
Mm-hmm.
settling and
Yeah.
people stop calling and kind of in that space where you can tell the calls are
Yeah.
coming less
It,
infrequent. And I know, go ahead, sorry.
no, absolutely. I could relate more than ever, especially the second year of grief with losing my wife. I've shared too many times this is harder than the first year because, yeah, everyone expects you to have a normal life and move forward, and everyone wants what's best for you. But at the end of the day, it's still even harder at many times.
Yeah, yeah, and like I don't know if you are experiencing this, but like I go somewhere or I do something and I come back home and then and my brain is like, yeah, she's still gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like just in case you forgot, she's gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, like everybody's like take all the time. I think it's kind of like people say that, but I don't like you said, I don't think they understand
Mm-hmm.
the extent of it until they'll go through it. Where when you say take your time, like, what's the limit you're putting? Because and nothing wrong, right? Like I really don't want anyone to understand what you and I have experienced. I like
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing. I'm just like I don't want anyone to experience
Yeah.
this, but at the same time, it's like I want to call someone and just be like, I miss my mom. I want to talk about her, and I can't.
I can relate even to this day. I've had a few opportunities, I think, in the last month to share about Terry, and like I met a friend of a friend who lost her spouse, and we got to catch up just on our stories. Never met until that day, and I just felt like a new person getting to relive what happened and how it's like a very different person that I become when I get to talk about my wife and the experience, and I really miss it because I don't I don't get to do it often unless someone asks. So I hear you, and I think I'm glad that you also now have an outlet with your YouTube channel to just share. I mean, it's such a beautiful podcast to talk about gardening, and then to talk about how you're just starting to like consider gardening again because it brings you closer to your mom. And I was just so encouraged by that because I keep finding things like going to Atlanta, doing things that will bring me reconnected to Terry. And even again after almost 2 years, it's what I still choose to do, and it makes me just happy.
Yeah. I want to know if you experienced, because I like believe in stuff like that,
Mhm.
and I think my mom passing really solidified that. I really do think they are still here with
Mhm.
us. We just can't see them, but like I've had things happen that I'm just like, that's mom. Have you had experiences like that?
I think a handful. I've also had a handful of friends. Even last week, a friend shared with me, like in her dream, Terry was in it, and I don't remember all the details, but I've gotten a handful of my friends sharing about this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sorry, Mayo likes to do his thing every time I'm on the computer.
That's okay.
He'll
No
do it.
worries. I have a dog too. I understand.
Well, let me just close the door. The last time I shared my podcast with my friend for feedback, and he's like, "Yeah, you gotta put Mayo in the other room or something." So it's all good, but it
They're
doesn't.
just busy protecting the
Yeah,
house.
I know he's doing his job, taking care of making sure no one comes in and steals our stuff in the house. But yeah, I I'm not I think I'll just have a lot of moments that I'll just experience in the day that I'll just go from like being busy to just like, whoa, I just really feel that grief, or I just really feel like Terry's trying to give me a message or something. And I can't explain it. I can't, but it doesn't happen as often as it used to before. But from what you're sharing, I totally understand. And again, I have friends who also just text me and tell me these kind of things. And I'm like, wow, thanks for sharing it. For me, when I hear these things, it makes me encouraged that, she's still alive and people are, she's, communicating to my friends this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I I've had a few experiences, but the first dream I had of my mom that night was like terrible. This was like literally within the first 3 weeks of my
Mm-hmm.
mom passing, and I just so like after my mom had her second cardiac arrest, I had just come home, and like fell asleep, and my brother texted me and my husband, and then it was like, just come to the hospital, she's having another cardiac arrest, and I like and they were like, you need to come now, she
Yeah.
could go any moment, kind of thing. So when I got there, she was barely conscious, and like I said I love
Mm.
you to her, and she melded love you back, and
Oh,
I will cherish that forever.
yeah.
But
That's
it's
beautiful.
also one of those uh memories that really is painful, because I could see how much it took him 30 minutes to bring her back from that. So like three men, right? Continuous chest
Oh
compressions
my
to bring
gosh.
her back. So just the amount of pain she was in, and like being able to tell me she loves me back.
Hmm.
But so that night, 3 weeks, that night I just had a flashback of it, and I was inconsolable, right? I was crying, and I was telling my husband, I just want to touch her, and I just want to feel her hug. I
Mhm.
swear to God, I had a dream that night, and me and my husband were in Greece, and we were like
Mm.
going through this place that we had visited when we actually went to Greece, and then I was like, I want to take my dad to Italy. So I was going to my dad to tell him I'm going to take him to Italy, and he's in this like weird like Italian villa type room laying on the bed. So as I'm turning around to go to the bed, I see my mom sitting on the other side of the bed, and she looks healthy. She's in this blue shirt that she would always wear, and she's just sitting there with her like hands kind of like this, and I'm like, Ma, and like she doesn't say anything, and she just like kind of like reached out her hands upwards, like hug me. So I was hugging her, and I could feel her chest, her stomach, I could feel her hug, I could feel everything, like it was in person. And then we did this like weird hugging crab walk, because she kind of like telepathically told me like, I want to sit over there, so I put her down on the chair, and because I used to do that all the time,
Mm.
when my mom was alive, like we would always hug each other and walk crab walk to like her bed or her chair. So I did that, and then in the dream I was like, my mom came to visit me in my dreams, and I was like writing on post-it notes in
Yeah.
my dream that I need to remember this dream, and I was like telling everybody, and my
Yeah.
mom just sat there and watched me. And then a little while later, I had another dream where I was like, we were both in my wedding reception outfits, and I was just crying, and I was like, I don't want you to go, just stay with me. And like she just hugged me, and she
Wow.
just petted me, and I was just crying in my dreams, and I was like, that was mom. Like I've never had a dream where you could like physically feel.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not used to hearing people recall dreams with this much detail and have shared this with me. And so I'm encouraged that I'm sure how did you feel when you woke up?
I mean, I cried because I
Yeah.
was like, because I just kept saying, like, I literally cried myself to a headache that I fell asleep, and like I just couldn't stop crying, and you just cry and you're stuffy and your head's just, I just fell asleep. My body was just like, just go to sleep, and I slept, and I woke up, and I told my husband, and then I started crying again, because I was like, I just kind of fell asleep telling my husband, I was like, I just want to hug her. I just want to be able to hold her
Yeah.
one more time. And so I feel like, that's when I was like, they are here,
Mhm.
they are here. And it's interesting, ever since she passed, I used to make fun of it's so like, one, me and my brother always poked fun at her, especially after she stopped being able to speak, just because we wanted to make light of it, and my mom would laugh with us, right? Like, so we always said she sounded like a squeaky bird, because she couldn't really pronounce words anymore, so everything just sounded like a squeaky bird. So I always called her a little bird, and like ever since she passed away, there's this black and white bird that comes and it
Oh my
sits
goodness.
on the fence all the time. And my mom loved to eat when she was like alive. So my husband was like, we'll get a bird feeder.
Yeah.
Since mom loves to eat, maybe we can like bribe
Awesome.
her. All the other birds eat. That bird never eats from there. It just comes and it
Interesting.
sits. And like sometimes when I'm like crying, like, I'll just have moments like grief, when it comes. That bird just comes out of nowhere and it'll
Wow.
sit in front of my window, or like if I'm walking my dog in the morning and I like talk to my mom, I'm like, what are you doing? Are you with your mom and your dad? Flies right by or sits in the
Wow.
tree in front of me. And everybody's always like, and I will tell you this, I told my mom, I was like, I want you to come as a hummingbird. I won't know if that's you, I don't want you to. So like the fact that this black and white bird that I've never seen before, and I'm in my garden all the time, so I've never seen this one. I've always seen the brown ones, the spotted, those are always around, but this one I've never seen. So it's been pretty interesting, to see her like that. So it's sad I can't like physically see her, but like
Right.
when I see the bird, I talk to her like it's her.
Good. Yeah. Wow. I'm encouraged. Like, I know it's hard to have these dreams, and yeah, I think I know every time I see things or people that remind me of Terry, like, in a moment it's nice, but then I'll feel that sadness because at the end of the day she's not here with us, and I really wish she was here, and so I guess it feels like you're just taking things one day at a time, and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yesterday and Thursday were pretty bad days.
hmm,
Before I was crying every day, and lately it's not been that. But I think now it's coming to like where I'll go a couple days without crying, and then
yeah,
it'll like build up, and then I'll have like really two bad days. Like Thursday was bad, and it continued into yesterday because when my mom was alive, and I'm sure this happened to all of us, right? Like your parents call you and leave you a message like, "Hey,
yeah,
come visit me. I made food. I did
I
this.
know,
I want
yeah,
this." Just take me. And my mom would always leave me calls like, can you just take me outside for 10 minutes? So I found,
hmm,
and I was like, wow, when she wanted it,
yeah.
I was too busy, right, at
I know.
times.
I could go on and on with my dad, especially on how many times he's called, left a message.
Yeah.
I knew he wanted me to visit, but he would just check in because he was not the type to impose. But, he'd always ask what I'm doing and then ask, can I come this weekend? Can I come next weekend? And many times I'd just find a reason why I was busy. And so I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, now I'm the one like begging her, like,
Yeah,
can you come back just one time?
I
Like
know.
I was telling my husband, I was like, if there was a way where if we could just get one day a year to
Yeah,
see them,
I know.
even that would feel like, okay, I can wait a whole year to
Mhm.
see you. But that's just not in the cards.
I know. I would love that too, believe me. And so yeah, I think I've learned in the second year to just keep the routines that will remind me of Terry. Her birthday's April 2nd. I plan to take the day off and to just watch the service online again. Just I have a memory book that she wrote when she was a child that I've read maybe a dozen times. I have a playlist of a lot of the favorite songs we've sang at church and also like that she liked, and then thank God I have so many pictures and videos that I could continue to use on my blog. I have so many stories I just love sharing with the world about what she's done, when we were together. And I think it's really helped me. I'm surprised because I was never into writing or doing any of this until her passing, and now I love it. And so, yeah, her birthday's coming up. Do your family has plans for next week?
I think we're gonna do dinner,
Okay,
and she has certain foods that she liked,
great.
so we thought about like maybe like eating all of her favorite
That's
things.
nice.
Our It's very interesting. Like, so my uncles came to live with they live with my dad right now, which is great because kind of gives me and my brother a relief,
Hmm.
like that he's not alone.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's very interesting how it's all happened because we pretty much, me, my brother, my dad, and my mom were like the four. We never really had a big community behind
Hmm.
us, especially because my mom was always sick. So I kind of just feel like we were always the outcast of our community. So I think we just kind of learned to just like be. each other's rock. And so it's nice to have my uncles because I'm like that's community, and it's kind of foreign, but it's nice at the same time. And we knew when my mom was alive that they were going to move closer, but we were like, what's the logistics? Like, people can't be around her because we used to keep everybody away from her.
Right.
Only like caregivers and like me, my husband, my dad, and my brother had access to her. Like, that's it. Like, because she was so immune compromised. And so like there was this whole talk about like, well, they could stay for a little bit and then they have to go get their be somewhere else and all that stuff. And then she just passed away. But I was just like, it's so crazy how life works.
It is.
Because like my mom left, but she did, she did it at a time when like my dad wouldn't be alone. Because I can't imagine like my dad staying all by himself, especially having to gone from 24 around the clock care to
Yeah.
like nothing.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's been very, very interesting how things are happening. And like, even on my dad's birthday in January, he's like, I don't want to celebrate. Your mom's not here.
Mm.
And just so happens like my husband's favorite uncle was like, hey, I'm flying in, I want to take you guys out for dinner. And I was like, oh, that's my dad's birthday, come have dinner with us. So like, where it would have been sad between just like four of us, it's like there's all these people to celebrate that day, so it just kind of like made it a little less sad.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of interested to see how my mom will like bring people together for her birthday, because it just kind of happened. I don't know. I'm kind of not thinking about it
Okay.
because I feel like the more I think about it, I might like I'm because I feel like I'm just the biggest crybaby, and I don't know how your family is handling things, but I've realized me, my brother, and my dad, we handle grief very differently. Like, I cry. My brother's kind of in the middle. My dad's very much like the older generation who's like, I just need to do all the prayers. I need to do all the
Just
rituals.
go
I
through the
need to,
process of.
yeah. He's all like the religious side, right?
Mm.
Where I'm just like, I'll just cry everywhere. I don't care where I'm at. I'm like picking up my dog's poop and I'm crying, or I'm at the grocery store crying, or like, whatever. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah. I think that's also what I've learned too. Everyone grieves differently, and there's no right way. I've probably cried maybe a dozen times since my dad and Terry's passing, and I've I've been okay. Like, just it'll happen when it happens. Terry's mom, was crying like every day, and there's and her sister. So I think that's everyone's different, and yeah, I think what I've also learned too is it's okay that we're different. Because I think sometimes, like before Terry's passing, I would be confused about why people would do certain things when with their loss, and I just didn't understand. And now that I've been through what I've been through, I think I've learned to have a lot more empathy for people and to let them do what they need to do, but to just
Yeah.
support them, not give them a hard time or tell them what to do. And so I think what I'm trying to work on is just not to be so busy, because while it's, I think, good to be busy and to be busy with good things, I think sometimes it's almost like I'm kind of like, I think grief eventually catches up to me when I kind of stop and pause and go like, wow, my dad really passed away a couple weeks ago. When I was sharing with Gretchen last night, my dad passed away that Sunday morning, and I just got straight into cleaning his house out because I was like, well, we got to do this. That day, while we were waiting, for the mortuary to pick up his body, we're just like, well, we're here. Let's start going. And since then, it's just been go, go, go with the funeral and all that. And so I think I'm really trying to pause and slow down and just reflect on his life. And but it's hard. It's easier to be busy than just stop and pause and feel what I feel. So I encourage you to, if you keep, I mean, I've also was told, like, tears are how we heal. And so in the moments we're listening to songs on the car ride and I would just start crying, I would tell myself, this is hard, but this is good, and this is how I heal. And so keep doing what you're doing. I'm so encouraged by hearing your story, and but I know it's only been 2 months, and that's a short amount of time given everything you've been through with her for the last
Yeah.
several years.
Yeah, I find myself, I was telling my husband and my friends, like, I in this process, like, I also learned how I need to show up. Like you said, like before, when somebody said like my cat died or my
Hmm.
uncle, somebody close or loved one died, I'd be like, so sorry for your
Yeah.
loss. And that's it, right?
Mhm.
But I think now, I'm like, oh, like the loss isn't just like right after it happens or after right
Yeah.
until the funeral. Like I should check up on somebody like
Hmm.
a month later.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have to call you every week, but like once a month or
Yeah.
maybe like even every 2 months, just be like, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Because the amount of times I feel so anxious, like I just feel like I'm missing them, I'm missing them, and it feels like it's right here, and I'm like, I just want to jump out of my body, but there's nothing to do, and you just kind of have to be like, you have to feel it.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. And
Hmm.
that's when I will literally just cry and like, just cry because there's nothing else to do. I'm like, I can't do anything. I just talk
Hmm.
to the air and like, or I'll show you. Before she passed, this is one of her dresses and I got her hand
Oh,
printed.
wow.
I didn't do it. I actually the funeral home that had her for before her funeral, I asked the lady that was our coordinator. I was like, "Can you do it? Because I just don't want to hurt her." And so I gave her like 5 different things. I was like, "I need like 5 handprints." So I like literally sleep with this every night
Wow.
because, and
Yeah.
it makes me feel like I can like hold her
Hmm.
hand in a way. I don't know, like that's all that's left of her, right? Like
Hmm.
that I have. It's just hard. It's your mom,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You've known her your whole life.
yeah, I feel like half of me is gone and it's a weird thing to say, like half of me is gone, but I do feel like that. I feel like I can be less of a baby because I feel like no matter how old we get, right? Like we can go and throw tantrums at our
Yeah.
parents, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
understand that, or like you right now, like I could just call my parents and be like, "Huh, I'm coming over," and it was always like the door's always open, right? Like,
Hmm.
and now I feel like there's one less person to leave the door open. Yeah, yeah, I know they're all separate, different, very different on their own. Like I can't imagine losing my husband. I think that would kill me too, right? Like, but your parents are just different.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And just hearing about the relationship you've had with her, I know it was so special. And that's why whenever I see your Instagram and you keep sharing the photos, I hope you keep doing that. And that's how you keep the memories alive. And again, I'm just so encouraged by what you're doing in this time. Well, I know it's hard. Again, I've almost 2 years into losing Terry, and most days I feel fantastic. I'm so thankful for where I am. It's still hard, but I think my putting in the time with the blogging and talking to people, I feel like it's helped a lot. And so please keep sharing and keep doing what you're doing, and just take it one day at a time. And if you need the days to just cry it all out, I think that's well spent to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I don't know what changed in me because I was like, when she was alive, I was very protective of her because,
Mhm.
in a lot of cultures, people are not understanding, and a lot of people weren't understanding of her being
Mhm.
sick. And so, I always felt like from a really young age, she was my mom, but that I had to be responsible for her
Mhm.
too. And so, and maybe because of all the traumas and stuff, I had a warped idea that I needed to protect her from the world.
Mm.
And so when my mom passed, I really was not gonna, I'm not the really big type that puts out personal stuff like that.
Mhm.
I would text you if you're my friend kind of thing. But after she died, I was just like, she deserves to be shared.
Yeah.
Like, she's somebody that made a difference. Like, she gave so many people jobs,
Yeah.
that wouldn't have been able to get jobs. She was always giving people ride, money, like when she was healthy. And I feel like those are the reasons why she lived as long as she did. And like things just kind of worked out for my mom in a
Mhm.
way, even though she was always sick. And then I just posted one day a photo of her, and then now I don't know why, but like it's kind of like this is another place I can meet my mom every day
Yeah.
is through her photos.
That's great.
And in the process, I don't know if you do this, but maybe I'm just kind of weird. But like all day, I'll just go through days, and then I'll be like, this person might have Facebook photos of my mom. So I'll like literally go through people's Facebook pages,
Mhm.
and I find photos of my mom. And I have been like, just kind of like, collect photos or collect stories. Like, I've been talking to people that I would never talk to because I'm like, what do you know about my mom? Like, so I get to learn about my mom,
Hmm.
things I didn't know about her when she was alive.
Yeah, when at my dad's funeral, there were several eulogies, and I was so encouraged to hear so many of my family say such wonderful things about him. But at the same time, I was like, how did I not know this? I, why couldn't I sit down and hear these stories from him when he was here? And that was hard for me because I just wish I spent a lot more time with him, not just hanging out, but to really get to know him and understand, my dad was a surgeon and did a whole lot for all of us and worked harder than anyone I knew. And I just wish there was more time and we got to talk about a lot of the stories that were shared. So I'm glad you get to keep. I've done that too. Believe me, I've looked through all of Terry's photos. I've seen photos that were way before we met, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And I had to talk to her friends. Like, "Oh yeah, that was her ex-boyfriend." And I'm like, "What happened?" So I've literally sat down with some of her friends in Atlanta and just heard about her past, and it was encouraging. It's and then I have a Google Photos or a Google Home that I first just had like random photos of Terry show up, and there'll be times where like it would be her and her ex-boyfriend, and I would just laugh about it because like maybe I should make my own album, but it's just funny to hear about
Yeah.
stories, and so I think that's great that you could keep learning about your mom through other people and photos.
Yeah, I think our Asian parents aren't, they come from a time where you don't talk and you don't
Mhm.
like remembering your lineage and things just doesn't seem like a thing. And I'm so grateful my husband did this for him. His sister and his so my sister-in-law and my husband, they got their mom a Tell Me More About You book.
Oh,
And
nice.
at first, his mom was like, I don't have time to remember any of this
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I don't know. What was my favorite? It's like, what's your childhood favorite snack? And she did it.
Right.
But then, like, eventually, when she started actually doing it, she understood, like, oh, like, when I'm gone, my
Mm.
grandkids, or if anybody wants to
Yeah.
know about me, they'll know. And that was always one thing that wish I could have done with my mom, but
Yeah.
obviously she couldn't talk or write. So like I knew that wasn't a possibility. So like before she passed, I saw a TikTok where a guy like he had put paint on his parents' hands and he had them hug him on a sweatshirt. And so he had his their handprints on the back of the sweatshirt. And so I told my husband, like, I would love to do that when mom comes out of the hospital with my dad
Yeah.
and my mom. But obviously I never got to do it.
Mm.
And I was like, even if I did it after she passed, at least I have a
Yeah.
handprint, but I wish I could have done that, and I think about it too. Like my dad, he's also like the typical Asian man, doesn't really like talk
Mm.
about things. Like maybe here and there I will learn something about him that he will, reminisce, but then that's it, right? Like he says, and then that's it. There's no like story behind it. So I'm also kind of like I need to like get on with learn, like meeting my dad and understanding my
Yeah.
dad and like get to know him, not
Uh-huh.
just as just my dad. So it's crazy. It's crazy how like my brain has like changed. Like I don't, I told my, I just don't want to have like, I don't know, like I don't want to work in the corporate like world just to work and make money. Like ever since she died, I was just like, if I die tomorrow, like none of this will matter.
Yeah.
I can't take anything with me, right? Like I just want to live a life now. I'm like, where I want to spend time with the people that matter
Yeah.
around me and do the things that will help change the world in a better way and make impact like she did, even if they were tiny. I'm like, she still made an impact before she left. Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. A
Thank
lot of
you for
crying,
sharing.
a lot of sadness, but hope is there,
Yeah,
you know.
you are making an impact, I could assure you. I again in your sharing about just even in your Instagram stories with your photos, for me it goes, wow, I'm encourage people like you really continue to keep the stories and memories alive of those that aren't with us here on earth, and it reconnects me with Terry, knowing like, okay, I could post photos all the time too, and
You should.
yeah, and I'm starting to like before I didn't do much, but now like when I have opportunities to share about her, I now post it, and then I've never had I wouldn't put like links to my blog on Instagram because I kind of just kept it separate, and the friends who want to read it will read my blog, the 20 people or so, and but now I'm like, there's a lot to still share about my story. I was, if I had it my way, I would quit my corporate job and write my book. I keep telling myself I want to just write a book about my story with Terry. But for now, blogging once a week or twice a month has been a kind of a good start. Yeah, just please keep doing what you're doing. I guess I know every day has been different, at least for some of I have some closing questions. For someone listening who is deep in their own grief right now, what would you want to tell them? Because I think a lot of people are seeing your blog, your video, your podcast and mine, and I'm sure are probably going through a lot as well. So what would you like to tell them?
Feel your grief. Don't hide from it. Whatever your brain wants to blurt out, just blurt it out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because trying to hold it in, it just makes it worse. I think, one thing that my therapist was telling me is like, when you're going through the grieving process, especially in the beginning, your brain, your heart, and your body is trying to reconcile, right? And your
That's
brain's
totally true.
main job is to keep you safe. And there's
Yes.
no keeping you safe from a passing. It's just a done deal. So you kind of have to give all three of them time.
Yeah.
Like, so if your brain wants to blurt things out, let it blurt out. If you want to let your body feel it. If you want to do something to soothe your heart, you have to do it. Like, just and and not be afraid to share.
Yeah.
At least while people are still like giving you the time and space, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged by that. And I've actually never heard about the brain and the body and being separate. And I got to think about that for myself as well. Because, yeah, the brain does some crazy things during this time. You're like, but sometimes, yeah, you just need to let it be and not fight it.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way either. I was like, well, that makes sense because like all of them have different functions, right? Like, and he, he was just like, yeah, your brain's like always trying to find a way to keep you safe. That's its first motto, and it can't. Eventually, all of them will reconcile it, but you just gotta one day at a time.
Absolutely. That's what I keep telling myself. And yeah, I feel like I'm still on this roller coaster. And with again my dad's passing, it's overall very overwhelming to
and it might never fully reconcile, right? Like
and I'm
these
okay.
right, like you kind of learn, like my husband and I were talking about this. He's like, I really don't want you to get too deep in your, I don't want you to feel too depressed. And I was like, grief doesn't feel like depression. It's like its whole thing, right? Like you feel a lot of love in it. You go into the past, you think about the future, you think about the present. It's like so different grief. And you almost don't want it to go because then it feels like they're gone.
Yeah. I could keep you forever, but we'll try to wrap up soon. But yeah, you totally get it. And because sometimes I'll feel like people just might think I'm just either, like, am I depressed or am I just too into this? It's such, again, it's the worst thing for people to go through. But at the end of the day, like it's still a very, very unique experience that has really made all the difference in who I am today. I have a completely different view of like what you said about working, about wanting to just spend more time with friends and family and Mayo. And like, I was usually just the workaholic that would always come home late because I had to be at the office because my boss stopped me out. I had every excuse ready when I would come home late. And now I'm just like, wow, there's so much more to life than just working and doing the things that everyone else is doing. So that's why I'm so glad I've gotten to get to know you. And, we don't have to do a podcast every time we hang out, but I'd love to continue the conversations and hear more about your mom. I know she's played such an impact. Some of the most meaningful times I've had is with friends just coming over and they would just listen to my story and see my slideshow about Terry for 4 hours, and so I think you and I can probably just share as much as we can, and that would be both good for both of us. So
Yes,
thank you so
yes,
much
I'd love that.
for
I wonder if we ever did see each other at Shirley's and we just don't remember.
maybe, probably, yeah. I've been to a handful of her parties,
Same.
not that many, but there's always so many people and lots going on. But
That's
definitely,
true.
let's get together with her too in the near future. Um, that would be really nice. And so,
Yes.
thank you so much. And any other things planned for today?
I think we're gonna go for a hike, take the
Good.
dog,
That's good.
and just kind of get out and be in nature. Trying
Nice.
to be a little bit healthier,
Yeah.
not stay home. I actually got right the day before my mom's funeral, I got laid off from my job,
Oh
which
wow.
which if there's a good time to get laid off is
Sure.
when somebody dies because you just don't care, right? Like as I'm having that conversation, I was like, I don't care,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's actually nice to have the time off. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I took a month off since when Terry passed away, and I wish it was 2 months or 3 months, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because we don't get that, right? Like you get
right.
what 3 days for
I
someone
know
to
that's another topic. I just feel like it's crazy that severance is 3 days, and how do you can't do anything in 3 days. So
no,
anyway, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So just trying to, like you said, have a routine
good.
because I am the type of person that I will literally like hide in my corner.
Mhm.
But again, like my mom passing away, I kind of feel like she's in my head.
Okay.
Like, and this is where I'm like, my
Yeah.
mom is not gone because like the reason I make these videos is because I constantly feel like she's in my ears.
Mhm.
Like, get up, do something. Because she was always like that when she was healthy. She was like, let's go. Like, where we spend, gotta get to work.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to close. And that's what I tell myself too. At the end of the day, our loved ones, they want us to move forward. They want us to thrive and be healthy and do the things that they would want to do with us if they were here. Terry was very good at telling me a lot of things that I should be doing, and those were good things that with my therapist I've had to learn, like, Erwin, you don't need a Terry or your mom to tell you the things you need to do. And I get it. And so, so when I want to be lazy or, do things I would not get away with when she was here, I tell myself, they want they want what's best for me, and why do that? So I'm glad you feel like your mom's still nagging you to get out of bed or do things. And, I know they're all in a better place and free from suffering. And so, yeah, let's continue to do what we need to do to grieve, but at the same time, do what we
And
need
that's
to
the
do to
best
move
thing.
forward.
That's the best thing is they're not suffering.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
as much as we want them here, right?
Yeah,
Like the part that loves them so dearly is like, I don't want you to suffer. I don't want to
absolutely.
see you
Yeah,
like that. So I can wait to see
yeah,
you again.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, and we'll look forward to staying in touch. Have a great
Yes.
rest of your Saturday.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great.
All
Talk
right.
to you soon.
Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye.